Aramaira kotora ngakano itakatu nei te ara. Tēnei te whakaro nui o rātou rā tutu ai te pue.
Kotai mai rā
mai mai
mō
mai rā ki ro tēnei o ngā whare.
Tai mai nei
Kia uki mā ara tura ki rātou o nō tutu ai rā i te rā te au turoa. Kia nau mai rā koutou i runga i te kaupako o te pakanga o Malaya. Anō nei ko rātou anō rā wai ana i a rātou. I runga anō nei te ture tangata o tēnei te korounatanga. Wai ana nei rā kakaro i ngā nui ngā rai.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the arrival of the official party and the national anthems.
Ngā pātu o tēnei ware o ki mā ara tuana nei rā, ki rātou anō nei nau mai, hara mai rā, mai rā mātai ki nei e. Te tuai nei rā, te pai mā ara nei rā, tia te rangi e, tau te whenua.
We will now have the national anthems of New Zealand and Malaysia.
Nugara
Please be seated.
E me I mai o tēnei ki a koutou me ino I tātou. Tukua te wairua, ki a rere, ki ngā taumata, I roto I tēnei hōro I Pukeahu nei. Ki a tau te manaakitanga o te wā ingaro I rongi I a tātou katoa. Mauma aratia, ngā tamatoa o Ngāti Tūmatauenga, I inga, I Malaya. I ngaro mai te ao, kano I kitea. Mau whakapūmau, ki o rātou mai rauka kai. Kia kore tātou e noo I raro I te kapua ki kino o whiro te tipua. Tūturu o whiti whakamaua ki a tīna, hui e, kia ora koutou.
Pukeahu ka tarehua, e mihi ana ki te whenua, e tangi ana ki ngā tangata. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e rau rangatira mā, nau mai, haere mai, ki te pai o maumahara I tēnei ata. Ka mihi ki ngā mana whenua o Taranaki whānui, o tira, tēnā koutou katoa. As Chair of the National War Memorial Advisory Committee, I am honoured to welcome you all to this special place, where those who have served and those who have died in the service of this country will always be remembered. I acknowledge our veterans of operations in Malaya and Malaysia and their families here today and around the motu. And I acknowledge you, all our distinguished guests who are here today. I also acknowledge those veterans who have passed away since we gathered last year. The operations during the Malayan emergency and confrontation are recognised as significant deployments for New Zealand by the plaque which is displayed in the alcove near the entrance to the Hall of Memories. And next to that alcove is the roll of honour recording the New Zealanders who died while on active service. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. It is my pleasure to invite the Minister of Defence, the Honourable Andrew Little, to give the commemorative address.
Tēnā koutou, ki ngā kaumatoa, ki ngā whānau, maumahara tonu tātou ki a rātou. Today we mark New Zealand Malaya Veterans Day and commemorate the involvement of New Zealand service personnel in operations in Malaya and Malaysia. On behalf of the New Zealand Government, it's my privilege to warmly welcome those veterans who are with us here in Wellington in this, the Hall of Memories at Pukeahu National War Memorial Park, our national place of remembrance. It's an honour and a pleasure to be with you today. I also acknowledge your whānau, those who are joining this national commemoration via the live stream, and those unable to be a part of these proceedings. It is my pleasure to welcome in particular Tangata Whenua, Taranaki Whānui and Te Atiawa supporting the ceremony today. Her Excellency Ms. Mazita Binti Mazuki, the High Commissioner for Malaysia. His Excellency Mr. Alfredo Perez Bravo, the Ambassador of Mexico and Acting Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, as well as other representatives from the Diplomatic Corps. Brigadier Rose King, the Acting Chief of Army, Rear Admiral Jack Steer, National Vice President of the Royal New Zealand Returned and Services Association, Major Fiona Cassidy, who you've just heard from, the Chair of the National War Memorial Advisory Council, Emily Fabling, Deputy Chief Executive of the Ministry for Culture and Heritage, Paul Anderson, President of the New Zealand Malaya Veterans Association, and the Honourable Jerry Brownlee, here on behalf of the Leader of the Opposition. 75 years ago, on the 18th of June 1948, the Malayan emergency was declared. New Zealand's involvement would begin a year later in 1949 with the dispatch of a group of Dakota aircraft from 41 Squadron of the RNZAF to drop supplies to anti-guerrilla forces. Our current point in time also marks 60 years since 1963, when the confrontation between Indonesia and the new state of Malaysia was brewing, to erupt into conflict the following year. In the decades which ensued, the role played by New Zealanders in the Malayan emergency between 1949 and 1960, and in the confrontation from 1964 to 1966, did much to provide stability to the region and was a significant contribution to the overall Commonwealth effort. All three branches of the New Zealand forces took part in both conflicts, and all of the 4,000 or so New Zealanders who served during that time were volunteers, serving in the Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment, the New Zealand Special Air Service, the Royal New Zealand Air Force, and the Royal New Zealand Navy. The names of 20 New Zealanders are recorded on the New Zealand Roll of Honour as having lost their lives as a result of the combined Malaya and Malaysia campaigns. As befitting all New Zealanders who make the ultimate sacrifice in times of war, they are remembered here in the sanctuary of the Hall of Memories. As a country, we owe a special debt of gratitude to those who pay the ultimate price in the name of their country and in the cause of peace and stability. The New Zealanders who contributed to the defence of Southeast Asia during this period undertook their duties with professionalism and courage in operations on land, in the air, and on the sea. Brigadier Robert Gurr, the commanding officer of the 1st Battalion, Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment in Borneo, rated his personnel highly, stating, in his words, "The platoons, companies, and staff that I had performed very well and justified an assessment that I had made about 2.5 years earlier, that we had a very good cross-section of New Zealand soldiers, that they were as good as and certainly better trained than many of the fellows I had served with in the Second World War. The military potential and quality of the individual was there, and as long as he was given the opportunity to have the training, the equipment, and the encouragement, there was no better a soldier." As part of the global community, Aotearoa New Zealand can be proud of the contribution we have made in times of conflict and war, and of the reputation of our personnel. As history tells us, the events in Malaya and Malaysia carry a special significance as the last time New Zealand would fight under the British flag. Today, as we acknowledge our military service, let us also reflect on our journey as a nation with a proudly independent voice and an ongoing commitment to supporting international peace and stability. It's often noted that experience in war draws nations together, creating or shoring up friendships that outlast the conflict. Today is a time also to remember the friendships we have with other nations that took part in the Malaya and Malaysia conflicts, and to look back with sorrow on the toll war took on those nations, their service personnel, and their civilian communities. Official commemorations are an important way for our nation to pay tribute to those who have served in war and conflict, our veterans past and present, and those who have lost their lives. Through shared remembrance, We honour their service and their sacrifice, and we honour too their families and loved ones. As we gather here today to commemorate New Zealand's operations in Malaya and Malaysia, let us remember the conduct and courage of all the New Zealanders who assisted in those operations, and their willingness to confront whatever might befall them in service to their country. Time rolls on and the world changes, but together we will ensure their memory endures.
Please be seated, and I invite Ray Marshall from the New Zealand Malay Veterans Association to deliver the historic reading.
Kia ora. This morning's reading comes from Bob Gurr's book, Voices from a Border War. It's page 83. In May 1965, D Company's base was sighted near the Borneo border on a low ridge overlooking a road. Nearby was a jungle-clad escarpment along which the border ran. The area was vulnerable to ambushes, as Delta Company's commander, Major Stan McEwen, describes. The nearest part of the border was the long escarpment of the Kling Klang Range, which rose 1,000 feet, 3/4 of a mile from us, and which placed us within easy mortar range of any enemy mortar position brought up from the other side of the border. The road to Kuching was between us and the escarpment, and ran roughly parallel to it for some 10 miles. While we were busy improving our defences at base, 2 platoons were rostered to patrol tracks along the escarpment. On Peter Sullivan's platoon's first patrol, one of his men caught his foot in a vine across the track. This jerked a grenade out of a hole, and there was a dive for cover, but no explosion. A very game soldier investigated and found the striker mechanism had jammed. He also found another grenade in a lethal state in a hole on the other side of the track. Thereafter, there was grave suspicions of vines on tracks. Looking down from the top of the escarpment gave us an enemy's eye view of what he could see when he was up there. Apart from the mortar threat, a couple of Indonesians with a satchel full of grenades could make it nasty for one of our ascending groups. We always sent a couple of scouts up first to cover the rest of the patrol to the top. Constant climbing up the escarpment got us all very fit, Patrols, when they got back from several days up there, were always ravenously hungry. Joe Hecketer, the company sergeant major, tried to console an aggrieved Chinese lady who had a cookhouse swill contract. "Soldiers, eat, eat, eat," she complained. "Not enough left for my pigs."
So let us now pause and reflect with our prayer of remembrance. Nau I te ariki, te nui, te mana, te karoria, te wikatoria, me te honorei, nau te katoa, I te rangi, I te whenua. As we pause in this peaceful space, it is easy to undervalue the effort and cost involved to win and hold peace. Today we come together as one to acknowledge a troubled time in Malaysia's past, when we were able to stand beside them to support them in their fight for peace and freedom. Today we remember all those who served during this conflict, and we especially remember and honour those who paid the ultimate price. We uphold those who still suffer from the effects of their service. May they find comfort and meaning in the knowledge that their service contributed to an enduring peace still enjoyed today by the peoples of Malaysia. We pray for a world where there is a lasting peace, a peace that is built on understanding, respect, acceptance, and justice for all people. We pray for a peace, Lord, which passes all understanding. May our commemorations today and always be worthy of those who have and continue to serve. May those who are no longer with us rest in peace, and may they know that they are not forgiven, for we have gathered again to remember them. Ma i au koutou, i manaki i tiaki, i ngā wā katoa. Amen. And we will now lay wreaths. The first wreath, I invite the Honourable Andrew Little, Minister of Defence, on behalf of the Government and the people of New Zealand. Her Excellency Miss Mazita Binti Mazuki, High Commissioner for Malaysia, on behalf of the Government and people of Malaysia. Brigadier Rose King, Acting Chief of Army on behalf of the Chief of the New Zealand Defence Force, and Paul Anderson, President, New Zealand Malay Veterans Association, on behalf of the Malaya Malaysian veterans. His Excellency Mr. Alfredo Perez Bravo, Ambassador for Mexico and Acting Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, on behalf of the Diplomatic Corps, and the Honourable Jerry Brownlee on behalf of the Opposition. Rear Admiral Jack Steer, ONZM, retired, National Vice President, Royal New Zealand Returned and Services Association, on behalf of the Royal New Zealand Returned Services Association, and Riley Greenhorn and Muhammad Arif Rizal, on behalf of the youth of New Zealand and Malaysia. I'd now invite Bill Russell, New Zealand Malay Veterans Association, to recite the ode for a wandering warrior.
The ode for a wandering warrior was written by C.A. Jennison, a member of the Australian SAS Regiment. May your spirit roam where eagles soar. May it finally rest on that immortal shore where the wandering warriors long to be, replete for all eternity. May your shadow remain in our infinite care. May your stories be legend wherever we share. May your memory stay engraved in our heart. May your friendship and love never from us depart. May the running waves, the quiet earth, and the shining stars recall your worth. And when we are not, with no one beside, with our own true spirit wandering wide, may you greet us and meet us, the good things renew, and may we become wandering warriors too.
Will you please stand for the commemoration and remain standing for the playing of the last post, a minute's silence and the rouse.
E kore rātou e kau mātua tia. Pēnei a tātou kua mahu e nei. E kore hoke rātou e ngoikore, aha ko pēhe i ngā āhuatanga o te wā. I te hekinga atu o te rā, tae no ki te aranga mai i te ata, ka mau mahara tonu tātou, kia rātou. Ka mau mahara tonu tātou, kia rātou.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We will remember them.
Mereka tiada berganjak usia, berbeza kita kian menua. Jauh jemu meskipun bergilir masa, silih zaman terkesan tiada. Gelincir mentari dan terbit mentari pagi, kenangan tersimpan melewati hari. Kami tidak akan melupakan mereka, kami tidak akan melupakan mereka.
Thank you. Please be seated. Our closing prayer. May we journey through life safely till the day we are called home. May we give generously of ourselves to build a better world. And may we live peacefully in the knowledge that peace has a price. Kia tātou katoa, te atawhai o tō tātou ariki o ihu karaiti. Me te araha o te atua, me te whiwhinatanga o te wairua tapu, ake, ake, ake. Amen.
Me pakikapi pēnei ai. Apiti hono tātai hono, rātau tō unga wairua ki a rātau. Apiti hono tātai hono tātou, ngā urupā o rātau kōwe. Tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa. Kia ora.
Please remain seated for the departure of the official party, and invited guests, as mentioned before, please make your way down to the Education Centre. There is a shuttle service available for those who may be less mobile, which will leave from the ceremonial pathway. Thank you.
There's no queue, which is why I jumped up on you. I would have thought they would just start anyway. Because you just fill the gap, don't you?